Brenda Henderson's last desperate attempt to hold onto her crumbling empire came on a cold Tuesday morning. She didn't bother with a formal letter this time. Instead, she sent a terse, scrawled note on her personal stationery demanding immediate access to the land beneath my home. The words reeked of arrogance, her signature bold and dismissive. The message was simple. Proceed with the survey. We're watching. I stared at it, feeling the familiar rush of cold fury mixed with a gnawing sense of dread. She thought she could just waltz in, dig around, and snatch what wasn't hers. The audacity was breathtaking, until I realized the real trap she was setting. Brenda wasn't after the land, not really. She was after the oil. The moment the thought crossed my mind, my stomach clenched tight. It was too perfect, too calculated. She had been probing, poking, watching, that seep in the yard, the subtle changes in the land, Gizmo's analysis, all indicating she knew or suspected what lay beneath. And now she was pushing to get her claws in, to legally claim her right to dig. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I poured through the HOA bylaws, hunting for loopholes, weaknesses. The addendum she cited, not properly ratified. No official vote, no documented approval. It was a sham, a bluff. Brenda's game was to force her way through legal technicalities, but I knew better. I had the law on my side, and I was about to use it. Gizmo's latest report was a dagger, a shallow reservoir, a small but significant pocket of crude sitting just beneath the surface, enough for someone like Brenda to dream of riches. I could see it now, her eyes gleaming with greed, her board members lining up to get their cut. The neighborhood's quiet facade was just a veneer, beneath a gold mine, and Brenda Henderson with her petty tyranny was trying to steal it. The next move was clear. I drafted a formal cease and desist, citing her procedural violations and warning her that any attempt to access my land without proper legal process would be met with immediate court action. I sent it certified and emailed it to every board member. Her bluff had been called, but Brenda wasn't one to back down easily. That afternoon, she responded with a blistering letter accusing me of harassment, of trying to destabilize the community. She played the victim, as always. The board, now visibly divided, hesitated, her loyalists supporting her, Chen looking increasingly uncomfortable. I knew this was just the beginning. Her next move would be more aggressive. I was ready. I had Gizmo's data, my legal team on standby, and the support of the silent majority of residents who, until now, had been too afraid or indifferent to speak up. That night, I met with Mr. Abernathy and a handful of other homeowners. Quietly, I laid out the evidence of Brenda's greed and corruption, overinflated contracts, payments to her relatives, suspicious expenses. Their eyes widened as they realized the truth. Brenda wasn't just a petty tyrant. She was a thief, a con artist, and she was trying to steal not just land but the community's future. The dominoes began to fall. The residents, once passive, started to question, to challenge. Chen, emboldened by the mounting evidence and his own growing doubts, began asking the right questions in meetings. Gizmo uncovered irregularities that linked Brenda to offshore accounts and inflated invoices. I pushed for an independent audit, an official inquiry that would expose her for what she truly was. The day the audit was authorized, Brenda's face turned pale. Her supporters tried to rally, but their influence waned. She lashed out, calling in her lawyer, a local guy with little real expertise. Eleanor Vance, my lawyer, tore him apart in a response that left no room for doubt. Her words were sharp, precise and cold. This woman believes she is above the law. She is not, and she will be held accountable. Brenda's empire was crumbling. The community was waking up. The silent majority was rising, signatures on petitions, whispers of rebellion filling the streets. I knew Brenda's desperation would soon turn into reckless fury. She was cornered, and her next gambit would be dangerous. I kept a low profile, letting her dig her own grave. Gizmo's digital surveillance tracked every move she made, every shady transaction, every secret meeting. The evidence piled up, more than enough to dismantle her entire operation. I prepared a detailed report, ready to hand over to the authorities. Meanwhile, the new HOA board, led by David Chen, gained momentum. They demanded transparency, pushed for the audit, and started to strip Brenda of her power. Under immense pressure, her loyalists began to defect. The final blow came when the board voted unanimously to conduct the independent financial investigation. Brenda's reign of petty tyranny was over, but Brenda wasn't done yet. Her last act of defiance was to attempt a frantic legal counterattack, filing a series of baseless claims to delay the process. Eleanor responded with a storm of legal motions, exposing her tactics for what they were: desperate, petty, and legally indefensible. And then, the shocking twist. Gizmo's latest intelligence revealed Brenda's financial empire was a house of cards. The offshore accounts, the inflated invoices, they all pointed to a massive fraud scheme. The authorities moved swiftly. Subpoenas were issued, bank accounts frozen, and Brenda Henderson was suddenly on the defensive. The community watched as her reputation crumbled publicly. She vanished from neighborhood events, her name dragged through the mud. The press caught wind of the scandal, the HOA's corruption, her greed, her lies. The final court hearing arrived. Brenda stood in the courtroom, her face streaked with tears pleading for mercy. But justice was brutal, unyielding. The judge handed down her sentence: years in prison, restitution orders, and a permanent ban from holding any HOA position in the future. The community exhaled. Peace returned slowly, surely. The silent majority, once cowed, now had a voice. They had fought back, not with fists, but with law, with patience, with unwavering resolve. My land was safe, the oil beneath it, the prize. Brenda sought so desperately, now belonged to us. It was a quiet victory, but a victory nonetheless. I watched Lily chase fireflies beneath the old oak tree, knowing that the real treasure was the lesson we'd learned. Even in the face of petty tyranny, truth and justice could prevail. And Brenda Henderson? She became a ghost, a symbol of greed and hubris, forever remembered as a cautionary tale. The fight had changed us all. We had faced down a tyrant, and in doing so, we had reclaimed our home, our community, and our future. The land was ours, the oil was ours, and no one, not even a petty HOA president, could take that away. The courtroom was silent, except for the sharp rustle of papers as the judge read out Brenda Henderson's sentence: years behind bars, her assets seized, her reputation shattered beyond repair. The room's heavy air seemed to lighten, a collective breath held finally released. Brenda, her face streaked with tears and rage, looked around desperately, realizing her empire of petty tyranny was utterly collapsed. The once confident HOA president was now just a broken figure, a cautionary tale etched into the history of Whispering Pines. As the gavel struck, sealing her fate, I felt a strange tremor inside. Relief, yes, but also a strange sense of emptiness. The battle was over, the land secure, the corruption exposed. But beneath that, a flicker of something else, an unsettling thought that this was only the end of the beginning. The next day, the community woke up to a new dawn. The old guard was gone, replaced by honest faces, eager to rebuild what Brenda had nearly destroyed. The new HOA president, David Chen, announced sweeping reforms: transparency, accountability, fairness. The neighborhood's whispers of fear turned into cautious optimism. But I knew better. I knew the real story was buried deep beneath the surface, waiting to surface again. Gizmo's final report arrived in my inbox, and I pored over it late into the night. The offshore accounts, the inflated invoices, the secret meetings, all of. It pointed to something even more sinister than I had imagined. Brenda's greed had been just the tip of the iceberg. The real treasure, the underground oil, still lay beneath our land, silent and waiting. The house of cards Brenda built was just the front. There was a much deeper game at play. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The evidence was irrefutable. Someone had been digging around the land long before Brenda's last move. Someone had been trying to hide what they knew, and then it hit me. This wasn't just about greed. It was about power. A secret, hidden well beneath the surface, could change everything. The twist was almost too unbelievable to comprehend. The old oak tree, the supposed disputed boundary, the strange fissure in the soil, all linked to a clandestine network of tunnels and chambers. The oil wasn't just a resource. It was a clandestine treasure, something buried deep, protected by layers of lies, cover-ups, and greed. Brenda Henderson had only been a pawn. The puppet master's true plan was much bigger, and I was caught right in the middle of it. I had fought tooth and nail to protect my family's future, only to realize I'd been played from the start. The real enemy, the unseen hand, was still lurking, pulling strings from a distance, watching my every move. That's when I knew. The final blow wasn't in the courtroom, nor in the legal filings. It was in the shadows, where the real game was being played. I didn't have much time. The evidence pointed to a dangerous network, corporate interests, secret investors, and powerful players who would kill to keep the truth buried. I had to act fast. I reached out to Gizmo, whispering a single command: find the source, find the root. What I uncovered in the following days was staggering. The oil wasn't just a hidden treasure, it was part of a covert operation, an underground empire of black market dealings, smuggling, and clandestine extraction. The land beneath my house was a gateway, a vault, a prize that could topple governments or ignite wars. Brenda Henderson's petty schemes were just the surface ripples of a much vaster, darker ocean, and then the unthinkable happened. One night, as I sat in my study, my phone buzzed with a new message. A single image, pixelated but unmistakable, an aerial shot of my property, taken from a drone that had been tracking me for weeks. The message was simple: "You're too close now. Step back, or you'll regret it." My blood ran cold. Someone was watching me. Someone powerful. Someone who knew I was onto something. The game had changed. This wasn't just about protecting my land anymore. It was about survival. The final twist hit me like a punch. I wasn't just fighting Brenda Henderson. I was fighting an invisible empire, a shadow syndicate with tentacles reaching into every corner of my life. The land, the oil, the truth, it all belonged to a dark web of corruption that ran deeper than I could have ever imagined. And I knew, if I was going to survive, if I was going to protect my family, there was only one path left. I had to go to the source. I had to expose the darkness at the root, because if I didn't, this fight would never truly end. It would just go underground, waiting to rise again. The night I made my decision, I looked out at the old oak tree, now just a silhouette against the moon. The land beneath it was no longer just mine. It was a battleground, and I was about to cross into the depths of a conspiracy far bigger than any petty HOA feud. There would be no turning back. The truth was out there, buried deep, and I was going to find it, no matter what it cost. Because the final chapter wasn't written yet, and the darkness, it was only just beginning to reveal itself.